They came at night. We're talking about masked men armed with machetes and guns, and they killed hundreds of villagers in central Nigeria. Chilling story, this. The victims, well, they were Christian farmers. Who did it? Well, witnesses say it was members of the Muslim Fulani ethnic group who went on the rampage south of the city of Jos. Now, this region has long been a flashpoint for violence, and this massacre comes at a time of great political uncertainty in Nigeria. Emotions obviously were raw as the villagers buried their loved ones, and Christian Purefoy got there to the scene the day after it all happened. Have a look at this.
The hysteria of grief. Mary Chuan says many of her family members were killed when the attackers came in the dark of early Sunday morning. She cried for help, but no one came. The Christian community of Dogo Nahawa in central Nigeria is burying its dead after what everyone here says was an attack by Muslim herdsmen on this Christian community. An estimated 150 people, many women and children, were killed in last Sunday's raid. But some villagers say this conflict is not about faith.
What these people want is the land, not a question of religion.
But this tit-for-tat violence is fueling sectarian tensions. In January, more than 300 Muslims were killed by Christians in a neighboring town. This is a very somber moment for the local community, but also a very dangerous moment for Nigeria. The security forces across the country have been put on high alert because often in this region, one attack begets another. And quickly, the deadly cycle of retribution is reignited as local families here try to kill a local Muslim journalist reporting the burial.
This is the situation that the Nigerian authorities are worried about, spiraling completely out of control. The situation here is extremely tense.
The police eventually drag him to safety. It's impossible to know how many of Mary's relatives were killed, but there is no mistaking the depth of her grief or her hatred for their attackers.
How does she feel? How does she feel now?
I am not happy, she says. I wish even I had died myself. Whatever the reasons for the attack, its consequences mean that Mary's family are unlikely to be the last victims in the region's troubles.
Now, before we move on with this story, I want to bring you some background on Nigeria and this issue, stuff you really should know. Now, there's a population of about 150 million people in Nigeria, hundreds of different ethnic groups. The southern states you see there highlighted in yellow on your screen are mainly home to Christians in the population. Now, the north is predominantly Muslim. You see those areas marked in green. Now, violence between these two groups has claimed thousands of lives over the last decade. Much of that violence happens in the area marked in red. It's called Nigeria's Middle Belt. Now, complicating things even further, Muslims and Christians are often from different ethnic and linguistic groups as well. Well, was this about ethnic tensions? Was it about politics? Was it about religion? We wanted to find out more from Christian Purefoy, so we asked him those questions and some of yours. Here it is. Christian, good to have you on Backstory. First of all, what a scene that was. Just give us a sense of the history of this tension.
Well, Michael, the tension goes back many years, but recently, in the last year, it's taken on a really different tone. It's deliberate, it's organized. We had the attack in January where maybe 400 Muslims were killed when Christians went into a small town and killed people. And then again on Sunday, what seems to be a retaliatory attack for the January attack. Again, late at night, early in the morning, coming in, killing people. This is not some spur-of-the-moment thing, Michael. So it has a long history, but it's changed dramatically in the last year, Michael.
Yeah, and they say that it's about land in many ways, but then we saw what that Muslim journalist very nearly apparently being killed, presumably because he's Muslim. So what is it? Land, religion? What is it? A bit of both?
It's a bit of both, Michael. Religion plays a really important role in people's lives in Nigeria. Often they have very little to fall back on, basically. The government has in many ways failed the people of Nigeria. 70% of the population is estimated to live under $1 a day, according to the UN. So religion plays an important role, but that is a card that is being played in this conflict over land. Nigeria, Michael, has a population of 150 million people, and that is growing at an enormous, very fast rate. So there's an enormous drag on resources to try and control what land there is. And the two groups involved are very telling. In this particular attack, one group, Michael, was landowners. They refer to themselves as indigents, and they say that the group attacked them were migratory nomadic herdsmen coming down from the Sahara Desert, basically, down to the greener pastures of southern Nigeria, Michael.
Wow, amazing stuff. Now, at that moment, I'm curious, you're there at that moment that journalist is being dragged away. It must have been a bit nerve-wracking. What's going through your mind then?
It was very nerve-wracking. To be honest, I've never actually seen anything like that before in Nigeria. The people there were very mad, very angry at what had happened. They'd all witnessed their families being buried that day, and it happened just at the end of the day as people came away from the graves and began to look for someone to blame. And they found a Muslim journalist. We did try and help him, but even us getting involved was dangerous. Eventually the police had to come in to try and help him. It is a Nigerian problem. They understand the problem. And, well, they had to use guns to try and stop it. So it was very tense and very sad as well, Michael.
We've got a very active Facebook community in Africa, pretty much right across. Now, a couple of them have given me questions to put to you, and I want to do that because they're good questions. Babade, I think that's how we say the name of this Facebooker, asked several really good questions, which you've actually answered. But he also is asking why, after the previous incident, nothing happened. No one was arrested. No one was held accountable. And you're saying so far there's not even a call for an inquiry into what happened in this case. Why is that?
Michael, people benefit from the chaos, and unfortunately at the minute Nigeria has a lot of problems. It's not just in Jos that you have conflict in Nigeria. You have the end of a ceasefire in the oil-rich Niger Delta with militants there. You have international concern about terrorism in northern Nigeria. People do benefit, and it all is against the backdrop, Michael, of there basically being no constitutional president in Nigeria. President Yar'Adua hasn't been seen since he left last year because of a heart condition, and the vice president has not been made constitutional acting president. So people are getting away with a lot right now in Nigeria.
Yeah, which kind of leads me into something Samuel asked too. He asked whether there was a connection between the violence and the current political crisis in Nigeria. You're saying that there is, but maybe not a direct link, but certainly an indirect link.
Yes, the central government in Nigeria certainly wants to put a stop to this. They've changed the National Security Advisor today. They have a heavy presence of troops there. They don't want to see the situation getting out of control. But there does seem to be tension between the local government in the Plateau State, and local government in Nigeria are very powerful in their own right, and the national government that wants to make sure that there isn't violence. They don't like to see this happening. It doesn't give a good image to Nigeria. We probably will see calls for an investigation growing louder and probably an investigation being held. But whether that is followed through, Michael, is a different kettle of fish. It never has been done in the past. And that leads to a further erosion of trust in the region and people falling back on their steadies, like, for example, religion. And that's why it's such an easy card to play up there, because people often have very little to fall back on.
Now, you heard there Christian talk about how tense things got when the crowd first turned against that journalist there, how he tried to help, how out of control things were for a while. Well, he just a short time ago fed in some extra video of that incident for us. Really amazing stuff, and shows just how out of control things got. Watch and listen to this.
Okay, there's a Muslim journalist here on the scene. Things are getting out of control.
Whoa, hey, 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 hey,
Okay. Frida, stay back. If they start shooting, just stay here. Okay, okay, we've got the police, but we're staying back if they start shooting. And also right now, me being there will only make that situation worse. And they're going to start shooting. This is the situation that the Nigerian authorities are worried about, spiraling completely out of control. The situation here is extremely tense. Doesn't matter. Recording. No, we stay here. We're okay. Just keep recording. We don't want to get anywhere near those guns. Stay with us, eh? We've all got into a small car. We've had to leave all of our stuff behind. There's a small car behind us warning us that we'd better get out pretty quickly. There's been checkpoints across the road. Lots of young men armed with sticks, clubs. The situation around the town at the end of that burial got completely out of hand, and the situation is extremely tense. We're heading straight into town where there'll be military checkpoints, and hopefully things will calm down.
Yeah, it's extraordinary when you see it in that sort of nat sound, just running pictures like that, how tense things got, how close things were for that journalist there, and how difficult decisions become even for our own crews on the scene.